You are now entering the Take-Up, a place to gather when the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and I'm here with my co-host, the managing editor of thetakeup.com, Andrew Wyatt. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Josh. And I have a pressing question that has once again entered my consciousness. Does my house need a decorative jeweled peacock / dagger display case? I think it does.
If you don't have one, are you really a fan of this film?
Yeah.
This film being Dario Argento's 1977 classic Suspiria. That's the pick of our guests, the proprietors of the Arcadon Cinema and Bar, Keith Watson and Sarah Baraba. On this episode, we'll decide if this one gets to enter the Take-Up canon, and then we'll have one more thing. Plus, we get to see your Falstaff.
That's
my
right,
God,
yeah.
it's a playing card.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
Yeah, like a German poster.
That's incredible. Oh my God.
Love it.
Man, I need more shit.
You just say you need more shit.
I need more shit. You know, I just got married recently and asked guests to not give me more shit because who's going to give me the German Falstaff poster?
That's right.
Right.
I'll register for it.
Right. Yeah, I should have. But I guess I should have registered for that. What was it? Crystal peacock dagger display.
Yeah.
You know, this is a film of many things. There are many things in Suspiria that I would love to have. We can talk about wallpaper cinema if we want.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should argue for an hour of whether or not this or In the Mood for Love, which one's better wallpaper cinema. And that they're also the two best movies ever made. Anyway, yeah, we're talking about Dario Argento's Suspiria. Crazy guys. And we've got guests. And that is the pick of Keith and Sarah from the Arcadon Cinema and Bar. Oh my God, you guys, thank you so much for coming and picking this.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
So I have to know. So we haven't had a joint pick, and you know, I'll go ahead and dox you guys a little bit. You're a couple too. You didn't just like go into business because you say what?
Our secret's out. Yeah.
Yeah. I've outed you two as a couple, and that you didn't just go into business because you both love Suspiria. Although I guess that's a good enough reason. How does this factor into your like cinephilia as individuals, but also as a couple?
Yeah. So we have been together now. I mean, next year will be like the 20th, not quite our 20th anniversary, but like 20 years of having met each other and sort of started on our journey together. So, I guess in general, I mean, we watched a lot of movies just as part of our dating and
courtship.
Movie courtship.
Love it.
It's the only way I know how to do it.
Yeah.
So pretty early on, Keith was like, "Oh, I want to show you this movie," and it was Suspiria, and kind of like helped seal the deal for me, I guess.
You freak.
Yeah.
Not beating the film bro allegations though.
Yeah,
showing Suspiria on an early date.
But for me, I mean, Keith kind of helped me grow my love of cinema. And I guess seeing this movie kind of like sparked that love of movies in me a little bit more. I'd never really seen a horror movie like that before, and it kind of set the bar really high. So now I feel like it spoiled the rest of the genre for me.
Yeah, spoiler alert for the vote at the end. I like, what is better? What is better? Yeah. What about you, Keith? Like, how did it enter your mind?
Well, you know, it's interesting because the first time I saw it, I didn't really love it. And I was like, and I actually remember where I first heard about it, which was my dad had a subscription to Entertainment Weekly, and they had an issue where they did like the 25 scariest movies of all time. And I was able to look up that article. It's still out there in the Internet Archive, Wayback Machine. And what they really focused on, or what really stuck in my mind in this little blurb, was that they said there was a scene where a knife goes through a beating heart. And it was like they just reading about it, it felt like, oh, this is going to be the scariest thing I've ever seen. So somehow I ended up seeing the movie a few years later, and it was totally different than what I was expecting, because I was expecting like raw horror gore or something. And Suspiria is not that, but it like, so I wouldn't say I loved it, but I also liked it, and it kind of stuck in my mind a lot. And then I would listen to the music a lot, as early days of downloading music onto your computer and stuff. And so the soundtrack almost made me like fall in love with it more. And then watching it the second time with Sarah, I think is when it really like, oh, this is amazing. This is like the movie,
It is kind of the movie.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about the concept of the movie because I showed my husband, he's seen both Wickeds. He's kind of obsessed with Return to Oz. He's never seen 39, The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, wow.
Which to me is the movie. And it was the movie that, if we're really talking about what started your cinephilia, I was 2. This may be apocryphal, I don't know, but my mom liked to say that, she sat me down in front of it. I didn't blink. And then when it was over, I asked for it to restart. And like, yeah. And she also didn't know I was gay when I came out. I'm like, girl. Anyway. But this is also one of the movies to me. And I don't know that I know how to enter a conversation about it, because like, how does it work? What is it saying? What is it doing? It's so like, it's such a sort of object to me, and I'm so inside of it. But on the other hand, it's such a dreamy object that I forget what sequence things happen in. I forget the like narrative curves of it. I don't know. Andrew, I'm sure, can speak more eloquently about one of the movies. Andrew, how'd you first see it?
Would you believe I don't remember? I don't remember what the context was for seeing this movie. Which I suppose, if I was being like a proper cinephile, I would say this movie's always been with me.
Yeah,
I've known about it. I've always been there. No, this is like one of the like great repeat viewing films for me. Like, I'm pretty sure I've seen it at least 20 times. It's my wife's favorite movie of all time. We don't have a ton of movies that we'll like slap on together and just sit down and watch. This is one of them. That we're like, hey, is tonight a Suspiria night? Yeah, tonight's a Suspiria night. Yeah, it's rewatching it. I rewatched this about a month ago in anticipation of this episode, and I tried to sort of put myself in the fresh eyes mind of like, if I had never seen this movie before, and maybe I had seen a few Italian horror films, or maybe just a few horror films, like what would I think about this? And it's hard. This is definitely one of those films where like if I had a wish, I would put myself back into the mind of a person who had never seen it before and to watch it with fresh eyes. Because I can't imagine what that now, having seen it 20 times, I can't imagine what it was like to watch it the first time. But I'm always sort of like a weird backhanded lover of Suspiria, because there are things about it that like objectively are not good, and I don't care. like I'm willing to acknowledge there are things about this that don't sit well with me as like a piece of narrative cinema, but I do not give a shit. Like,
come on, buddy.
It is 100% vibe. I mean, like, to borrow a phrase, this is vibe cinema. This is
Sure.
Nothing makes sense. The story is nonsensical. The events, the way, as you were saying, Josh, the way that events is like happen, this, then that, then this happens, doesn't really make a lot of sense. The characters all act like aliens instead of real human beings. I don't care. 10-10, no notes.
Yeah, because I guess a lot of films that are dream logic films really appealed to me, because I also just inherently don't have the kind of comprehension skills to understand plot. So give it to me. The Wizard of Oz, Mulholland Drive, Suspiria, like Femme Fatale. Yes, these are my movies.
All those films you mentioned, I would argue, are kind of in conversation with each other as well.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
and you know, they might all start with the Wizard of Oz. We're not talking about the Wizard of Oz, but I think it's appropriate.
Well, but you said Wizard of Oz is one of the movies. And I think one of the truisms that Suspiria sort of lays blank is that when we're talking about cinema, we're always kind of talking about the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Aren't we kind of always talking about the Wizard of Oz when we're talking cinema?
At least I am. But I remember that Entertainment Weekly. That is how I first heard of this movie. Was
Oh,
that
wow.
Entertainment Weekly 25 greatest horror movies or yeah, whatever the name of it was. But I remember that. I'm also like digging into my memories right now and realizing that I also watched this on a first date. Or
Oh,
a
really?
date, not a first date.
Do you remember
Like,
what the response of
in
the
my
date?
bedroom. It was like a Netflix and chill situation. So I'm not sure how much watching was happening, but also like, of course, no matter what's going on in that room, I'm stuck on that TV because of what's happening. Like, I do not care about you, dude. There is magic on my screen.
Do you remember the response of the other person to this film?
Well, he was a horror movie person and he had seen it before, and it was kind of the same situation. Like, you have to see this.
Okay.
And I was already a huge cinephile. Like, I was deep in my Fassbender stuff at the time. And I was like, sure, I'll try this, what I thought was cheap horror, you know? So I've seen this movie in like so many different iterations too. I've seen it with Goblin doing the live score. I've seen it in so many like midnight things. I think I've seen it at your place. Like I don't know how many times I've seen it big and small. And again, like I don't ever really truly remember the way things unfold. But Keith and Sarah, can you do your best summary of what's going on in Suspiria?
Yeah, it's definitely it. I think we both were remarking on the same experience that you always kind of forget certain scenes. It also does kind of meld into other Argento movies. You know, if you watch those, I mean, it sometimes it's hard to pick out or remember exactly which set piece happens in which movie. But as far as the plot goes, basically Susie Banyan is an American ballet student who shows up in Germany to attend a ballet school, a live-in ballet school. And immediately, you know, it's storming and some girl is running out of the school as she arrives. And there's a strange hanging murder that happens immediately. And she soon, although the soundtrack tells you almost immediately
What's going on?
starts to suspect that there are witches afoot in the school, and eventually she learns that that is true, and they're sort of doing evil deeds, I guess, within the school, run by Helena Marcos as the leader of the coven.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good summary, as good as it gets, because there's also there's also kind of nothing going on in this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes where it's just the camera's kind of floating through space, amazing space, because like you said, the wallpapers and the set design and the Goblin score is just kind of pounding away, and that's like the best stuff in the movie in some ways too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys had a like favorite moment, what would it be?
Ooh.
I mean, just kind of that whole opening sequence is so good.
Yeah.
Wait, the opening sequence of the airport? Or
no, I'm
like
getting
the
to
whole
the school.
10 minutes or so, the beginning.
Because
I mean, even the airport.
airport.
That cab driver is such an ass.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't say the street name right. I can't take you there. No, but just her arriving at the school, the woman who's running out of the school screaming, running through the forest, then getting to
and the first murders.
Getting to her friend's apartment and just being in that room by herself and hearing the wind blowing outside, looking out the window and seeing those eyeballs, and then you hear the witch for the first time. Oh, it's so good.
It is so good. He's such a like musical director. And that's not just because he has that really tight association with Goblin, who give so much to his films. And by the time they're kind of out of the picture is when you can kind of overlay that narrative on there, is when
Mhm.
he starts to fade too. But um he really seems to work from instinct. And I watched and ranked and wrote about all of his films for the old version of the Take Up. Wait, Andrew, is it on the Take Up now?
Yes,
Okay.
I
Okay.
restored that post because it is it's actually one of our most popular pieces is your like definitive Argento rankings.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah, because I updated it when Dark Glasses came out.
Yes.
Dark Glasses. What the translation and all of this stuff is great. But that's one thing that I appreciate about it, is that it does feel like a familiar piece of music, but you're always finding sort of new notes, new lines, new pieces to the melody of it, no matter how many times you watch it. Like it's that kind of rich visual and auditory experience.
Yeah, and Argento had worked with Sergio Leone, and I think there's definitely that same quality of like stretching things out, just letting the music play, letting the kind of empty space sort of fill you with a certain feeling that you definitely get from Suspiria, as you do from a lot of Leone movies.
And the 2-3-5 aspect ratio, and he gets so
Yeah.
much out of where characters are in the space. Also, they're kind of like the visual representation of the sight and the unseen, and kind of implicating the viewers in a Hitchcockian way. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say a lot of phrases that point to something smart. Because I do really think that his films are supremely rich. Um, Half of his films are rich. Half of his films are utter garbage, which is what I found out in writing that piece, but also as a fan. And I'll always kind of return to Argento as one of my directors, even though I think, there's like a handful of masterpieces, but he's someone who I'm always like wading through even the garbage to find something interesting in. Andrew, I wanted to talk to you specifically about sort of like where this fits into horror, because you're such a horror guy. I just, for a film that is so celebrated as one of the best, I'm not sure that it is actually influential. Is that a hot take?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think
I think
if you
it's too
put
singular.
Yeah, I think if you sat down and polled, maybe not the oldsters, maybe not folks like Carpenter, but if you sat down every horror director under 50 and asked them, was is Suspiria influential to you? They probably a lot of them would probably say yes, I suspect, but I'm not sure you can point to one to one. Oh, this is homaging Suspiria in a lot of modern films. I feel like it is. Again, I go back to the vibe cinema of it all. That it the atmosphere and the dreamy logic of it, the way that events proceed from this to that to then. Um, I do want to shout out that Daria Nicolodi,
Mm.
is a co-writer here, and the traditional interpretation has always been that she brought a lot of the sort of fairy tale aspects to the screenplay. And she was a very important early collaborator with Argento. And I think in this, this is sort of the film that gets held up. Is like you can see the Snow White of it all. You can see the Pinocchio and Sleeping Beauty of it all embedded inside the style and also in the text. So I do want to make sure that we give some credit to her as being essential to this film object that we revere so much. But yeah, I'm not sure how beat for beat influential it is. It's more about I feel like this film gives people outside this uh sort of Euro art filmmaking tradition permission to do this. Like, do we have Strickland without Argento? Do we have um I mean, how how would you say? What would you say is the most Suspiria post Suspiria film? Anybody? You guys, Josh, Keith, Sarah. Like, do you have a film that you feel like is cribbing very strongly from this?
The one that comes to my mind is Inferno. Like,
not a film not directed by Dario Argento and not also named Suspiria.
Right. It's I mean, there's the ones like you referenced that are very directly pulling from it, like commenting on it, like Peter Strick, like Barbarian Sound Studio, or like I can never remember their names exactly, but Strange Color of Your Body's Tears and Air.
Oh yeah, Let the Corpses.
Yeah, their later film is really great.
That's their like Bob. Their Baba. They have a new Baba homage, don't they?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Diablo.
I'm so excited to see that.
Sorry,
tangent.
Diabolique. Yeah, it's really good, really cool.
Sorry,
but I don't know. I feel like you see the influence in a lot of like superficial ways. Just like you'll see a horror movie and it will flood it with red light in a scene. That kind of thing, I think, is influential. I'm not sure anybody has quite landed on the combination of music and visual that Suspiria does. No. But I don't know. Yeah, I can't really think of like a movie that feels like it's doing Suspiria.
No. And maybe that's the problem.
Even it goes back to,
it's like, it's not really that similar in feel to the original.
It goes back to the phrase that Josh used earlier, which is singular. Like this film feels like it sort of arrived as a masterpiece and nobody's ever really tried to exactly imitate the things that it's doing. I like this, and we're going to talk eventually, I assume, about the Suspiria remake. I love the Suspiria remake, but part of why it works, I think, is because it's so deliberately not trying to do the same things that Argento is doing.
So just to tease our next episode, we're going to be talking at length about the remake. So we
can table that
on it, but we don't want to rob Ethan of his opportunity to mount a defense for that one.
Sure.
But there's so much great. I do think that maybe the biggest influence in it is on horror films that don't feel like they have to adhere to a perfect objective logic. Like, I think so often about like how the early sequence, like that opening 10 minutes, and how powerful and evocative it is. But like nothing about that scene, those sequences make sense. Is that ballet school in urban Berlin, or is it in the forest? I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. Like part of what the power of this film is that it overcomes our CinemaSins nitpicky instincts and just overpowers us with its vision, with the evocative sensations that it's offering us. And it makes it so that we don't care. I mean, so few films, I think, have that ability to push past I think horror film, I love horror films and I love horror film fans, but I do think that they are prone to nitpicking. Like, I can't imagine how this film would be received if you showed it now. It would just be, people would be like, nothing about this movie makes sense. What's wrong? Like, why is Susie doing that? Like, it feels like a film that could be nitpicked apart in the modern, quote unquote, criticism environment. But part of its power is that it just pushes past that so strongly.
Yeah, we showed it recently on Halloween, and certainly a lot of people there had seen it before, but there were definitely people there who had not seen it before. And overhearing conversations, some people, like, they're not even quite sure if they think it's a good or a bad movie in a way, because it kind of disrupts your normal sense. Like you're talking about, it's not a logical narrative. It's not exactly scary in the way that, like, the tension isn't built up in the same way that like a Halloween or something, much more approachable or mainstream is. But it's I love it, even though they're not sure if they actually think it's good,
I love that you mentioned Halloween, because I think one of the there's a lot of similarities in terms of score. But I saw a critic, and I wish I could quote them accurately and name them, but this quote has stuck with me for years, which they said that the distinction about a film like Suspiria is that in a film like Halloween, which is a very effective horror film, we're always we're scared because we know that Michael Myers and his knife could pop up at any time from any direction. That's part of what makes him the Shape, right? What makes Suspiria a different kind of horror film is because we know that something could happen at any moment, something unexpected. But unlike in Halloween, where we know it's going to be Michael Myers with a knife, we have no idea what could happen at any given time in this film. What could pop out of left field or what a character could stumble into feels random in the best sort of dream logic way. And that's something that's so hard to capture, that feeling that like anything terrifying and bizarre could happen at any moment. And it puts you on a constant sense of alert.
Like that barbed wire scene,
Yeah.
I rewatched it, I think like a week and a half ago. And that scene, oh God, I don't think I'll ever forget it watching it for the first time. And it's almost like the build up to that is so crazy, because she's running through the school. She's trying to elude capture from something. She doesn't quite know what. There's just like this person that keeps coming. The doorknob's jiggling and the music is wild. And then all of a sudden she sees that window in the room and literally everything stops. Like it goes completely silent. And she climbs up there and she thinks she's getting out. And then bam, into this horrible pit of barbed. Why is it there? Why is this room there? I don't know, but we don't care. And that's not even what kills her.
Yeah.
I remember I showed that Suspiria to a film club that I had back in the 2000s for the first time. There was a lot of people in the room who had never seen it before. And I think that was the scene that everybody sort of said after the film, like, they were baffled by it, but also it made like the biggest of all the crazy stuff that happens in this movie. That was the one that made the biggest impression on the virgin viewers, was the idea that like, why the razor wire room, and why is it so horrifying and abrupt and disorienting when it happens? And he just like, when she falls into that pit, it just stays on, the camera just stays on her, and the soundtrack hammers away. We're watching this woman writhing in agony in a pit of razors. It's just, ugh.
Yeah.
A lot of that there is suggestion too. It's sort of because of course that actor is not in a razor wire. But that's one of the things that I absolutely love about Argento, is like he is working from such instinct that of course it's going to be a singular experience. And by the time he starts working and being too referential to either himself or other gialli, or even other horror films, he begins to lose that kind of spark, that originating spark. And I think that this is one of the best but least influential, because you can't replicate it. This is like a musician who is, it's like a Brian Wilson who's finding kind of like chords, and the gulf between what's in their head and what the final product is so small seemingly, that it's just like watching their dreams, or being inside their heads. I don't know that you can sort of replicate this. And to the extent that the films of Alain Content, and I can't remember the other person, Let the Corpses Tan, even Reflection of a Dead Diamond, which is their new film that we were all gushing about. I don't know that we said the title at some point. But those films sort of read as, even when they're really great, as like too referential. Like it's
pastiches,
pastiche, exactly.
Yeah, you mentioned Wong Kar-wai at the beginning, or In the Mood for Love, and that's another thing with Wong too, where he's very intuition based about how he sort of structures the movies, and they don't have the kind of, they're more tethered to reality, maybe not 2046 or something, but they do have that same kind of like, you just don't know what's going to happen next, and you're in such a rich, lush environment. It's almost like if anybody could do a Suspiria remake that would feel like, or do a movie that would feel like Suspiria, it would be Wong, if he ever made a horror movie, maybe.
It's actually, these are two films that I never thought about how similar they are as far as like temporal relationships and like dream logic, and the very thing of like the experience of watching them 20 times and them being fresh experiences always, because you sort of don't know where things are going to be placed, and you're just so caught up in enraptured.
Yeah.
I mean, the other filmmaker that comes to mind in terms of dream logic is Lynch, right? But I've always thought of Lynch as striking a very different chord than Argento in terms of how he approaches intuitive oniric filmmaking. It just feels like a different species, even though I love both of them, and both of them I think it's apt to say that you can use the word dreamlike in describing both of them. It always felt like a slightly different species of filmmaking to me. But
I thought you were going to go with BDP.
well,
because he's got those accusations too, but his music is so different.
right.
Brian De Palma, I just call him.
And I would say that
different.
De Palma is more directly in conversation with specific filmmakers that he idolizes, obviously Hitchcock, but also others. Whereas I think Argento is working in he's working in a mode that's more indebted to like philosophy and Jungian psychology, and more so that, not to say that he didn't have filmmakers that he idolized, but can we talk? So let me back up. Can we talk for a minute how distinctive this film is, even within Argento's filmography? Because it's often held up as a turning point film in some ways. That separate everything before this is more traditional giallo, and everything after this is sort of a mixed bag. Some absolute greats, but the distinct mixture of that giallo stylistic sensibility with the supernatural horror and occult elements feels distinctive. Am I wrong about that, or am I reading too much?
I think you're right, and I think that's the Daria Nicolodi of it all, and that she deserves as much credit for bringing not only this kind of more dreamlike logic that's always been present over the 7 years he's been directing films. Right. I don't know if that math is right. Between this and then after this. But you're right in so much that she's involved, I think, with Inferno, but Inferno feels so much like a pale imitation, like he's trying to do it. And I don't know the extent that she was involved. They broke up shortly after this, but they continue being collaborators in some sense. I think her last film with him is Opera, which I think is another fucking masterpiece. But she doesn't get enough credit for bringing I don't even want to get into the gender conversation, because I always think that's kind of bullshit. It's like gender essentialist. Like, I'm going to assign this as being feminine and this as being masculine. But there is something about her worldview in this that has such a different touch from what he does elsewhere. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's part of what makes it a great collaboration in this film specifically, is that idea. So we can look at the and I don't want to go in too deep into the academic weeds of it all, but we can look at the archetype of the hag or crone magic user, right? As both a villain and as a psychopomp or an escort to a different, wider world. That's a very sort of Jungian archetype, which is the Argento side, but it's also, via Jungian archetypes, it's also a fairy tale archetype, right? So that's the Nicolodi side of it. So that's one of the things that makes it such a great, and this subject of this occult subject matter of witchcraft and the perfection of sort of a school hiding a coven and there being a secret person inside the wall. There's also there's a Bronte element. There's a Gothicism, right, to the idea of a hidden person inside the walls who's being kept secret, who may be powerful or may be very frail. We're not really sure. There's something there, right? There's something Jane Eyre about it. But I just love that. It feels like a perfect storm in that respect. That combination of philosophy, psychology, fairy tale, literary traditions, occult folk traditions, all sort of swirling together in this very singular cinematic language.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, I love a lot of the other Argento movies too, and some of them have pieces of it, but none of them quite come together in this fully operatic way where just every single element it feels like it's, I don't know, rushing together into this weird experience in quite the same way. They're a little more set piecey or something, a lot of the other ones. Although Phenomena has a little bit of the fairy tale element, I think, with having,
girl with secret powers.
Yeah. And apparently Suspiria, originally it was supposed to be 8 to 10-year-old girls or something, a much younger age than they really are, which I think is part of what gives it a weirder vibe too, that they're kind of written as little girls, even though they're played by women who are in their late teens, early
There's
20s.
definitely Mean Girl vibes.
I
Middle school Mean Girl vibes going on.
I have been holding on to this since we started talking about doing this episode that I was going to introduce Sarah with Susie, Sarah,
S's.
S names, snakes. The opposite of a snake, Sarah.
Can I ask you guys, what is your favorite? I don't want to say performance because Jessica Harper is so central. She's in like every scene in the movie, basically. But I want to ask, like, what is your favorite performance scene or favorite performance touch in all the actors that are in this film?
That's a really good question. I mean,
I kind of really like the scene where, oh gosh, I can't remember her name. The German
Alita
doctor,
Valley.
yeah. She's after the dog attacks the kid. She storms into the hall and she's just like, "Get out of here!" to the blind piano player. "Get out of here!" She throws his cane and his coat on the floor. Like, what a bitch!
So over the top. It's great.
Sarah, she's my favorite.
Yeah.
Not only do I kind of like her as an actress, she's great in The Third Man, The Parenting Case, like the films that I've seen her in. She's always such a beguiling presence, but now she's older and she's playing a type here. But she does it with such gusto that, of course, like I'm like finding the most drag queen performance in this. But Joan Bennett is also great because she has like such resolve, Joan Bennett, as an actress and reserve. And I love, I just want to point to Karina Longworth's series on her and the murder she was involved in real life, because man, did she have a crazy story. But Joan Bennett's so good in this, her last film performance, and he cast her because he loves Fritz Lang and she made those great Lang noirs. But I mean, everyone in this, even to the background players, they're just like, he knows a good face when he sees one. And he knows how to twist that face into anguish and horror too.
I think that's another commonality between Argento and Lynch. They really love faces, and they love beauty, obviously, but they like distinctive faces, and they see a face and they get sort of glom onto it and want to make it. They want to make it 40 feet tall, which I really love.
Yeah, like Olga, her first roommate or whatever, she's got such a great like Fairuza Balk type face, you know.
Jessica Harper passed up a role in Annie Hall to do this.
I read that, yeah.
Like, what
good choice.
Good choice. Yeah.
History has vindicated her choice.
Yeah. Udo Kier, his one scene, rest in peace.
So young.
Coming up on this podcast. Have either of you seen The Secret Agent yet?
Yeah, I saw it. He's
got a great one scene in that.
Yes.
I always forget that scene is in this, but it's one of my favorites just because Argento's interest in architecture is in for full display there, and the way he just utilizes that common space between those buildings is so interesting to me because it's such a pedestrian scene. It's all expository, and it's two fuckers coming in.
Right, that's a weird element. It's that Udo Kier is just there to set up the other guy to tell her something. But and I was just watching this scene before actually, and it Argento almost loses interest in it because he zooms into the reflection, and so he's like, don't even worry about whatever the mythology is here. We just want this cool shot of them kind of the reflection pulling them apart, sort of,
As logical as this film is in so many ways, it's actually one of the most realistic scenes is that an academic says, you know what, this isn't quite my field of expertise. Let me introduce you to this other academic who can maybe give you a better idea. Totally happens in real life.
The one thing about that scene, though, is that Udo Kier, I do wish he'd been allowed to dub his own voice because they got some just sort of generic guy, but Udo Kier's got such a great, voice when he's speaking English. So.
Germanic accent, why wouldn't you just let him have it? Sure.
Right.
That's another thing. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into this because we're about the time where we need to vote this into the take up canon. Oh, I said that in a weird way, or did I?
I think we know what the foregone conclusions are here.
Just forego it. Is the experience that people have when they are not familiar with either this kind of film or they watch older films for the sake of laughing at them. I've had such bad experiences watching older films, period. But this one in particular, I think like there is so much of it that is definitionally camp, but also kind of intentionally, seemingly, knowing Argento the way I do. I often am just welcome to expect any sort of reaction to it, to where sometimes like I get annoyed watching an older movie when someone who's like came in with the intention of laughing at the thing. I don't know, that's just my aside. Is I've had such weird experiences watching this, but nothing like watching Vertigo at midnight at the Tivoli and someone who kept yelling, "You're such a stupid bitch" to Kim Novak when Jimmy Stewart is following her closely. I'm like, "You're the stupid bitch because you don't actually know what's going on."
I think with this film in particular, like the worst thing that could happen would be a completely dead silent audience. Like even the people who are laughing, I feel like are responding to the sort of visceral knife to the brainstem power of this film's images. At least they're reacting. Like if you got a crowd that didn't react at all to Suspiria beginning to end, I would question like, are they pod people? What's wrong with them?
Yeah. Like, how do you have a non-reaction to this?
Yeah.
It's one of the nice things about our place is that we're like literally right outside the theater doors, so we can usually hear how the audience is taking it in. And unfortunately, I don't really remember what happened that night that we showed it.
Oh,
But
that was Halloween night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
It
was
was
Halloween.
Halloween.
I remember more after the movie than during the movie because we weren't like actually in the theater. But
That has to be so much fun. Or like kind of frightening when you've like rolled the dice on something and you
it
get
can be
no
painful, yeah, if it's something that is a little too artsy
I would-
fartsy for people or whatever. And
it
I would
always
think that your customers are a little self-selecting, though, right? Like, there's a little bit of self-selection. The people who go to Arcade to see movies are already people who are like very into movies, right?
Yeah, that's
times.
my experience.
typically, but not always, and we will get people that are also kind of rolling the dice on something they're not sure about. Or we have a lot of regulars who maybe they have a certain type of taste, but they will come to stuff just all the time, and we show something outside of that taste profile and they'll really
What was
go
the movie that we showed? Oh, we both really loved it.
Oh yeah, The Other Side of the Underneath, which is a very crazy movie Jane Arden directed in the 70s, and it was like based on experimental theater, and it basically is like a movie where a bunch of insane stuff is happening all the time. And it was just like, somehow we promoted it in a way that got a reasonably decent number of people there, and it was like viscerally rejected it. Just
Good. Give me my money anyway.
yeah. Well,
I consider
that
films that people walk out on and I stay for usually to be good films. Like
Yeah,
that
well,
to me
then,
is
yeah,
like
I'm kind of in
usually
the
a
same
good
boat.
movie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I used to work, I had to program with you guys, and one
Yeah.
time I programmed a double feature at your place of Doris Wishman films.
Oh,
Yes.
great
And
night.
it was a really great night. That was in response to Barbenheimer. I showed Deadly
Right.
Weapons and the doll one. I can't remember.
Yeah, the black and white doll one.
Indecent Desires.
Yes.
Really great titles. And the person very vocally was pissed at the portrayal of sexual assault in Indecent Desires. And on one hand, I'm like, I did warn you to do a minimal research for Doris Wishman. 3, I'm so sorry. I had all of that going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those situations are always kind of hard. Like we showed El Topo, which for me is a movie that people would know the aura around it, and that it's going to contain a lot of stuff that you might not want to see. But somebody walked out like in 10 minutes and they were like, I don't feel like you promoted this film accurately. I was like,
Sorry.
I don't know how to help you with that.
Yeah, right.
my most recent experience was last week. Last week, I co-roasted with Lifetime. That's Allie's series there. And that is, you are literally asking for people to be talking during the film because you're showing a Lifetime film. And we watched Double Daddy. And I didn't, full transparency, I'd never been to a Lifetime. So when I was asked to do it, I didn't really know what I was doing.
That's often the case. You were not the first one at all.
Josh, why did you agree? But Allie was so kind, and it was so much fun to do it. That you guys just always have good stuff. That's just what I'm hearing.
Particularly wild.
It was particularly wild. Yeah,
way bigger crowd than normal. It seemed like.
Yeah, she's really cool. She's picked a series of movies by this one director, and his name escapes me because I have a terrible
something.
And she's been on like this run of building up the quality of these movies. So I think she like really built it up to a big crowd with this one, and it did not disappoint. What a film that was.
I will say that the film itself, I have seen worse films on the big screen this year. And it doesn't help that it was the talk along was a particularly fun experience. So like it helped elevate the film even more to me, the experience of it.
Do we want to do our pro forma vote on this movie?
Yes.
Suspiria,
1977. Well, okay, let's set the cards on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Cards on the table is that we have two, including this one, 2 episodes for the rest of the year. We have 3 votes. So it's like, why not? But I would not just like want to use my votes. Like I'm more concerned about the list and the canon. But can I say that even though we talked about my article, my listicle that I did, which I hope it's better than just that, this wasn't my number 1 Argento.
Not mine either.
What is your number 1 Argento?
Yours is the same as yours. Deep Red.
Deep Red.
Yeah.
Deep Red, I think, is just, well, I won't get into it. How about you go to the take-up.com and however, like apples, oranges, whatever, it's fucking Suspiria. Andrew, it's going in. I don't care.
Yeah, it's going in.
Okay, good.
It's not even up for discussion.
Congratulations for bringing us one of the take-up. We're saving this movie forever. We're going to throw it in the bunker. We're going to show it to aliens. We're taking it to a desert island. What else? What
other cliches can we throw out?
Cute cliches. Well, Keith Watson and Sarah Baraba, thank you so much for coming in. Do you guys have some upcoming stuff that you want to plug at the Arcadon?
Yeah, all next month in January, we're going to be showing, our theme is Weird Canada. So we've got a lot of really bizarre offbeat films.
I saw you were showing Enemy, which is my favorite Denis Villeneuve film.
Yeah,
I freaking love that movie. I've written about it at length, so I'm so excited you guys are showing it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we've got some Cronenbergs, obviously. We've got Exotica. We've got Strange Brew, the Kids in the Hall movie, Skinamarink.
We've got a few new releases next month too.
Yeah, we do. We have a actually Canadian animated documentary called Endless Cookie. It's really cool, very kind of 8-bitty animation sort of movie called Obex. That's by Albert Burney, who did Strawberry Mansion. Kind of stylized.
Yeah, kind of been waiting for his next film.
Yeah, so it's a black and white movie that is about kind of like going into a video game. So it's got like retro game aesthetics to it as well.
And then the Peaches.
Oh yeah,
Bananas.
Peaches Goes Bananas documentary from Marie Lozier about the musician Peaches, who's also Canadian, so it ties into the series by happenstance.
Great White North Month. I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool. Where can people find the schedule, find you guys online?
Yeah, go to arcadencinema.com.
Very cool.
Or Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
Also linked on the front page of thetakeup.com.
Oh, yes.
Beautiful.
In our log roll. Very good. Thank you, guys. Thank you for picking this film in particular, and thank you for coming on. We hope to have you on again.
Thank you so much.
Love to do it. Thank you.
All right. And then Andrew and I have one more thing. Andrew, in all of the excitement of talking about Suspiria,
Mm-hmm.
I did mention it, but Ethan Tarantella, contributor to the Take Up, editor, helped producing this very show, who is in the background saying nothing right now, will finally speak next week. But we're going to talk about Luca Guadagnino's. We should have got their opinion on it, but I showed as a part of a Q Fest sidebar Suspiria 2018 at the Arcadon a couple summers ago.
Oh, fun.
And I know that they like that movie. I don't believe I'm bullshitting when I say that. But
we'll discuss it, but I love it too. So we'll have plenty of time to discuss it.
And there's Take Up lore with it too. So that'll be the next episode. But first, we're going to give you one more thing. And Andrew is going to go first while I think about all the things that I love.
Okay. So this might be a little long, but I'm going to give some background first before I talk about my thing.
Okay.
So in 1990, Sierra Games, the famous developer and publisher of iconic graphic adventure games, published a game written and directed by the great Roberta Williams, creator of King's Quest, a great game called Colonel's Bequest, which was sort of a graphic adventure murder mystery Southern Gothic game where you go to a mansion. It's very Knives Out-y. You go to a mansion, the colonel's dying and changing his will. Everybody in the mansion, this former plantation, is a suspect when somebody ends up murdered. And you're kind of you play like a young ingenue / plucky Nancy Drew type who's trying to figure out what exactly happened. And I love the game. It was very formative for me. Typical like pixelated graphic adventure game, point and click with some text parsing. But one of the things I loved about it was the idea of this like Southern Gothic murder mystery. And it had this brilliant time mechanic where when things happened in the game, so you were there for one night and there was a limited amount of time to solve the mystery. Every time certain things happened, the clock would advance 15 minutes. And so like the whole premise of the game was that all the suspects were in different rooms of the mansion at different times. It definitely had like a clue quality to it where like you had to figure out where people were going to be at specific times and who was in danger and who wasn't.
This shit up then, and specifically because of Clue.
Yeah, 1990, Andrew loved this game. So I say that all as prelude to talk about a new game that I've been playing that I absolutely love called The Seance of Blake Manor. This is developed by a company called Spooky Doorway, who also created a great retro adventure game called Dark Side Detective. Published by Raw Fury, who also produced one of the other great mystery games of 2025, Blueprints, which I might talk about some other time. But Seance of Blake Manor is sort of set in the 1890s in the west of Ireland, sort of remote rural country. It's a mystery game where the objective is to figure out what happened to a woman who was supposed to be present at this large seance where like 20 suspects are going to show up, and she has vanished. And you've been called from Dublin to come. You're kind of like typical consulting detective, Miss Marple, Poirot type character who's been brought in to figure out her disappearance. But this is simply one puzzle piece in a much larger mosaic of mysteries that are happening at this manor. And I will say that this is an occult mystery game, so there is supernatural stuff in it that is very real. It's not a sort of Scooby-Doo thing where we find out it's all fake. There is actual occult shit in this game, but I don't think that detracts from the overall like consulting detective drawing room mystery vibe of it. But the mechanic of it, I think, is what is brilliant. So you're walking around these sort of 3D hand-drawn environments. You're talking to characters, investigating clues, breaking into people's hotel rooms and rummaging through their stuff. Pretty familiar concepts, but I think the sort of brilliant touch and also the most infuriating touch is that every single thing you do in this game, rifling through somebody's clothes, opening a box and looking at the contents, asking one of the suspects one question, makes time advance 1 minute. And you have 48 hours to figure out every single mystery in the game. And the end objective is actually to rescue everybody. So if there's a seance that's happening at 9 p.m. on Sunday, you arrive on Friday night. If people show up to the seance, they're going to die. It's like a prophecy or premonition. So you have to not only figure out who's committed all these crimes, you have to save all 20 suspects from dying at the seance. And so they each have their own mysteries.
But every move you make is forwarding you in time, so you're limited to the number of moves.
Yeah.
So it's a puzzle in that kind of way too.
Yeah, it's not quite like tactical because you can actually move. You can move for free, so you can move around the mansion and like open any door for free. But you can't actually like interact with the environment in any other way without moving time forward. So
It's
time becomes a
stressful
precious
to me.
resource.
This
What's
is
that?
too stressful.
No,
It's too
so
stressful.
that is both the thing I love and the thing I hate about it, because I got soft locked in this game where I realized that I wasn't gonna be able to save everybody, and I like reverted an entire day and went back to one of my earlier saves because I got so frustrated with how pressured I felt. So a little bit your mileage may vary, but I found it both infuriating and also like fascinating how that time mechanic worked.
Yeah.
It's also just a great game, rich atmosphere, good soundtrack, great voice acting. It dabbles in so many historical topics. It's a very like, despite the presence of ghosts and other supernatural elements, it's very historically rooted. There's stuff about the British colonialism in Ireland. There's stuff about all kinds of matters of race, class, gender, sexuality, sort of embedded in these mysteries for all these characters, these 20 plus characters. I just really enjoyed it. It's actually on sale right now, I believe, on Steam. So it is a PC game. It's on sale on Steam right now. And you can buy it in a bundle with the other great mystery game of 2025, Blueprints, if you're so inclined, and save some money. But highly recommended if you're a fan of the mystery genre or those sort of old school point and click adventures. It definitely pinged. I mentioned the Colonel's Bequest the 1990 game, because for me, it's like when I booted it up, I was like, oh, these guys obviously played that game like me when they were 14 years old, because it's so obviously indebted to the structure of that game. But
And what was the name of this one one more time?
The Seance of Blake Manor.
What a great title.
Yeah, great title.
And where can people find you?
You can find me at thetakeup.com. Hopefully, I haven't published there in about a month because of other issues, but hopefully squeeze one last review in this year. Next week.
Very good. And also find us at the Take Up STL. My one more thing is an iteration of an older one more thing.
Oh.
So back when we did the aforementioned Sister Kristen series, we had a guest on a querying that just sparked my Siri to go off. I don't know. Series. Oh, did it again. Shush. On a querying, our guest had recommended a book to me, a gay romance novel about hockey players.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
Called Heated Rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was years ago, folks. All right. I was in on it early. But now there's a sensation hitting HBO Max. I don't know what to call them anymore.
Soon to be Netflix too. I don't know what's happening here. Yeah.
Let's not talk about our dystopic future. But Heated Rivalry has been adapted into a television show in the most supremely fun manner. It is not just kind of softcore porn. It is extremely erotic. It is graphic for television. But it's beautifully done and very tasteless and tastefully done in many different ways. But the show has done something over its first few episodes that I found really interesting in playing with time and narrative. And playing
is this from the novel, or is it unique to the adaptation?
A very faithful adaptation of the novel.
Okay.
And the Game Changers series from which Heated Rivalry is a part of. And then it's just doing really interesting things with time, with your expectations of a romance narrative. And one of the lead performers, I think, is going to be a huge breakout star. That's Connor Story, who's playing the Russian half of this couple. Did I mention they're hockey players? Did I mention that?
Yes, you mentioned that.
Okay. He's got an ass like 2 basketballs.
I've heard nothing. So what's weird about this is I've heard about this, but I guess I didn't connect it back to Anna's recommendation from a couple of years ago. But
Yeah,
now that you're talking about it, I'm like, oh yes, this is that book that you mentioned.
it
And
is.
all I've heard about it is that it's unabashedly and joyously horny.
Yes, but it's not an interesting thing in realizing the romance part of it, which isn't separate from sex, we know, but it has become something about kind of lustful but also longing and yearning romantically.
I love a yearn. I love a show with a yearn.
Episode 5 has blown everyone's brains to bits for how incredibly yearnful and melancholy and romantic it ultimately is. Our little hearts were all about to explode, and there's no sex in it.
Oh,
So for people who thought what it's doing, interestingly, is the No Country for Old Men bit, in that we start to align the violence that you get used to in No Country for Old Men, because it becomes it's an understood element. So the sex is understood. So we don't need to see them fucking anymore. It's not about that anymore. It's about something else. And I think the filmmaking in it is pretty top notch. The scripts are directly from a romance novel, but of the highest order, I think. So I would definitely recommend this show. It's not without kind of reservations critically, but it's also sort of one of the more exciting pieces of television that I've seen in a while, because of what they're doing. And also, you don't see dudes fucking on TV. You hardly see anybody fucking anymore. That's my recommendation, is to watch this.
My Googling is telling me that this was created for Canadian subscription video, but apparently it was such a huge hit that HBO immediately snapped up the rights to it as well.
And it's become quite the sensation online. I don't know if it's just my algorithm, but or just the gays.
This is Jacob Tierney, who created Letterkenny.
Sure. What's
showrunner? Yeah, showrunner. Oh yeah,
he was that guy in Canada. Yeah, I remember. Okay. Well, I think it's just great TV, and that's Heated Rivalry. We can find it on HBO Max. As previously stated, on our next episode, producer Ethan, he's gonna come out from the shadows to talk about Suspiria, but that's 2018 Suspiria by Luca Guadagnino.
I can't wait to hear both. I can't wait to talk about this, but also specifically to hear Ethan's take on it.
Yeah, we'll be able to see if Ethan speaks or not. I've read Ethan on this film and on Guadagnino, and I know that he has very interesting things to say, and as do we. So that's our next episode. You can find that on probably Amazon, because it's an Amazon production. Anyway, so thank you to Ethan for all the work that you're doing, and also Kayla McCullough for social media, theme music by ANP. And until next time, break the nose of every beautiful thing.
Absolutely.